I'm very happy to be with you again, since I've been in a EU EXL conference in physical one in Vienna 10 years ago. I enjoyed my time as the CEO of FERA, getting to know both the Austrian Directors Association and also the work that has been done, particularly in Austria with Imago. So I'm now in the position of president of the Norwegian Filmmakers Association. We are celebrating, or would have celebrated, our 75th anniversary this year, but because of the crisis, we are postponing the celebrations until next year. But just to give you an idea of the length of the life of the organization, so 75 years, we have 1,300 members, and they span from all crews and also directors. Although the directors also have their own association, they are also all of them members of our association. The members are both working as temporary employees, self-employed, freelance, and any kind of possible combination of working on salary or by invoice. But we have for many years now insisted that our recommendation to our members is that they are temporarily employed. And picking up on the point that Johannes made at the end of his presentation about some new developments in the EU, I'd be very interested to see how this develops, because on a national level, I think we all experienced during the crisis that, of course, if you were self-employed or freelance, you were falling outside of the security nets that the social system has in place for people who are employed. So this was also the case, of course, in Norway, that those who have been self-employed would not qualify for the same relief packages that were offered. There were some initiatives that did cover self-employed, but they economically did not benefit nearly in the same way as those who had been temporarily employed. So this is a long-standing recommendation that we have, and this also goes to the biggest pillar I will talk about today is how we are doing collective bargaining, because I think that is something that is at the heart of how we have succeeded, is some things that we are proud to have achieved ourselves, but also something to do with the circumstance that we're lucky in our case. Because for many years, our association exists as an independent small union for film workers and filmmakers. And for many, many years, our negotiating partner in collective agreements has, of course, been the Producers Association. And they also used to be an independent association and was also mainly focused on feature films. Then a few years ago, so when we would have our annual bargaining and negotiations, it would really be at the mercy of the producers whether we came up with a new agreement or not. And if we didn't agree, there weren't really any consequences, except that we, said that we didn't agree on a new agreement, and then we waited each other out, and then finally we came back to the negotiating table and agree something that should be an improvement, and sometimes a little bit going forward, sometimes a little bit backwards, but this is how the years went by. But then at some point the Producers Association decided to become part of the second biggest employer association in Norway. And this changed the game quite significantly for us, because it meant that our collective bargaining would be conducted in the same way as any other negotiation in the society. So whether you're a nurse or you're an office employee, or more sort of the rules that apply to every other sector suddenly could apply to us as well. So that means that we have the annual negotiations. If they don't succeed, we are in breach of the negotiations break down, and then we are called in to the state mediator. And this institution of having state mediation means that we have to negotiate, and we cannot just decide not to continue negotiations. And of course, at the end of this round, if the negotiations then break down, we are on strike. And we've actually been on strike twice. The first time was in 2010, which was a big push by a new big chunk of membership, which came from TV entertainment. Of course, the big volume that came into broadcasters with reality TV and formats and shows that were really the bulk of what they would be broadcasting, meant that we had an extremely motivated, also big group of members who were so sick of not having a collective bargaining agreement, so they were willing to strike to get one. And so in 2010, the result of the strike was that we had a new collective bargaining agreement for TV entertainment. And this meant that we also then had this annual routine of going to negotiations, and it's every second year that we have a full negotiation, and then the other year is just adjusting the salaries levels. And then, so having started out with just a collective agreement for feature films, for commercials, suddenly now we also have TV entertainment. And then the next big fight was getting TV drama to be a separate agreement from the feature films, because by habit, before the volume that came with Netflix and HBO and the big new players that really invest in TV series, the tradition in our market was that you would just use the feature film agreement, because artistically and sort of ambition wise, and it would be the same crew members who would be working on the high-end series that would also be working on the feature films. And so up until, so in 2018, we had the second big strike, and that was to try to get a minimum wage level for TV series. And this strike didn't result in a new minimum wage system, but we had quite a long strike, which was quite expensive for both parties. But the result of this came a big survey and study of the level of salaries. And then finally in September last year, after sitting together for 22 hours straight, and I was there, so from 10 in the morning until 6 the following morning, we were finally able to crack them, and we got the new minimum wage level for TV series. And this was really also a very big milestone for us, because we know that if the negotiations are free, it's a race to the bottom. But if you manage to get the minimum salary level set, then that is really lifting everybody up. So we have, it took 2 strikes and 2 years of further study and negotiation until we managed to land this, but that was also a big milestone for us. And so, of course, this whole process requires that we can take people, that we can legally go on strike. And to legally go on strike, you have to have employees. So people have to be temporarily employed. And there was an issue back in the days where we were not sure if temporary employees could go on strike in the same way as full-time employees or regular employees. But we dared to challenge this, and it wasn't challenged in court, and we succeeded by establishing that it was perfectly fine for people, even though they were temporary employees, to also go on strike. So with this, of course, stick and carrot approach, that the stick is, of course, that we go on strike if we don't agree. This has, of course, very much increased our bargaining position. So this is the status of the sort of very traditional union work that we do. We have these different collective bargaining agreements, and that are renegotiated every other year in full, and then every other year they are just adjusted for the salary levels, and they usually follow quite closely the rest of society. So when the model that we have in Norway for the big employer and employee organizations to sit together first, and their result will be a guide for the rest of of the different associations and organizations that negotiate on the part of all different sectors. So this is also very established now that we follow more or less this scheme. And then to go to talk about the rights assignments and how this all got mixed together was really because back in the, I think it was about 2007, and I was then vice president of my association, we went on a study trip to Sweden and to visit our sister organization, the Theatre Union, which was a very big organization that organized both actors and crew members and directors. So they had more than 3,000 members. And they had started their own rights, that actually a known company that they had formed, which was just dealing with rights assignment and negotiating for rights payments. And I remember that when we were there, that they were showing us around their offices, and then they suddenly asked us, "Oh, do you know this director? We are looking for this director who's a Norwegian who has been working in Sweden." And we said, "Yes, he's one of our members." And I said, "That's great, because we are really trying to get in touch with him, because we have 25,000 euros waiting for him, which is rights payments for some of the things he directed in Sweden." And we, of course, immediately called him up on the phone and said, "Guess what?" Matthias was his name. "We're coming back from Sweden with 25,000 euros for you." And this was, of course, an amazing story that we just, we were so impressed with the way the Swedes had organized themselves. And we decided that this is something we wanted to replicate as well. So we started very basically from scratch by devising this rights assignment contract, which was very much inspired by the Swedish one, but also very precisely almost copied from the music composers. So one of the big collecting societies that everybody in Norway, whether they work in culture or not, they know about is, of course, the composers collecting society. So we knew that they had recently had a dialogue with the competition authorities in Norway to assess whether or not their rights assignment contract was in compliance with competition law in Norway. And the competition authorities had accepted their rights assignment contract, and therefore we said that's a really good thing that they had recently been under review for this, because then we felt quite confident that with this very established system of rights assignments that they had used for decades, this was something that was very good for us to copy. So first in quite secrecy, I would say, we started very slowly to ask all our members to sign their rights over to us via this rights assignment contract. And one of the interesting features is that we are saying that all new members are potential rights holders. So whether or not they start out as assistants, they are eventually going to rise to become the photographer, the DOP, or they're going to rise to become the main editor, or to the other crew functions where you have authors' rights. So to make sure that we don't have any holes, we ask all members, regardless if they are starting at assistant level, to actually assign the rights to us. And that means that we by now have more than 3,000 rights assignment contracts. And these are extremely valuable to us, both because we have actual proof that rights have been assigned, and we often need to document this also in our bigger collecting society, which we are members of, which are the ones dealing with what used to be old retransmission rights and cable rights and all these things that are well established throughout Europe, that have always had to be dealt with collectively. So we started, as I said, in secret to do this rights assignment contracts from the members. And when we felt ready, we wrote a letter to the industry, to all the producers, to all the broadcasters, to announce that we are now representing the rights of our members, and that they would have to clear the rights with us before they could allow to broadcast or these works. And of course, that's having this, I think you may know of the expression of being in good faith, but what we did by having this very public and official letter sent to everybody was then putting them in the position of bad faith if they were then to go against them, because they could not claim that they did not know that they had to negotiate with us. So the fact that we then said, now we are representing all these rights and you have to come and talk to us if you want to broadcast your productions. And there was a specific negotiation for actually this TV entertainment sector, where we were at the state mediator and they were challenging us on this. And then as we were in the negotiations, I wasn't there present myself, some of our delegation organized a text message campaign to get even more people to sign the contract. And they, as they were sitting in the mediation, they could see that the contracts were ticking in by the minute. And by the time, you know, during this negotiation, suddenly they could just say, listen, we have everybody. You cannot even touch us now because we have everybody sign their rights to us. So then they just, you know, the cards fell and they just had to accept this, because they were trying, the producers at the very, to the very last moment to not accept that we would be in this position of representing also the rights. And this, and then of course there are certain specific conditions that allowed us then to also have a respect for this in the collective bargaining agreements. And this is of course extremely important for us, but it's also something that may not be so easy to copy for others. But of course, to build this, first the complete rights assignment from so many people that you are actually have the bargaining power and be able to represent all the rights in addition to the bargaining power in collective bargaining is what makes the combination so strong these days. And what I could also say as a message to you is that it's extremely important not to just be photographers or editors or directors in separate organizations, but to unite everybody so that you get the volume and you get all the rights holders together, because only then are you strong enough to have the possibility to block productions being broadcast, or you know, that the producers will not have the rights clearance in order to sell the productions. So this is extremely important, to have everybody together and to have the volume and to try to work with a very well-established tool of collective bargaining and the possibility to go on strike, and also use the combination of rights assignment and the bargaining power and strike weapon, so to speak, in order to get the respect that you need from the other stakeholders, from the producers, from the broadcasters. So I think I'll stop there and
thank you.
any questions you might have later.
Thank you so much.